Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to the channel. So you guys, I'm getting so excited for next year's homeschool curriculum. I feel like I do this every year. Do you guys do this where you're kind of in the spring semester and yes, I still love our curriculum that I chose for this year, but I am so focused on next year and I'm so excited about the potential, about what we could learn and all of these things. I get pretty jazzed, to be honest. And since Sonlight is our core curriculum for at least content subjects like our history, science, Bible, read alouds, all of those fun subjects, I get really excited and I start just pouring over their catalog and I start looking at the options, even though I know them really well because I've been doing Sonlight for so long and I've been anticipating some of these levels. I still get so very excited. And so in today's video, I want to chat through some of my tips as to how to pick the best level, or at least what level you need for this upcoming school year. And I have learned a few things over the years and I just want to share them with you in case you are considering Sonlight for this upcoming school year. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back, all the things. And so in today's video, we are going to be talking about attempting to pick the perfect Sonlight level for your family for this upcoming school year. And because it's Sonlight, there are so many good options and there's so many good things to think about. And so I feel like I have some tips that could help narrow it down for you, or at least it could help you feel a little less overwhelmed potentially, hopefully, as you are looking through kind of the Sonlight catalog and looking through all the different programs. I also do want to mention the upcoming sales because Sonlight typically runs sales in March, beginning of March. Now, I can only promise this for this current year, 2024. So if you are watching this in a later year, I can't promise anything, but I'll talk more about that at the end of the video, just in case you're really not interested in that and you really just want the core content of how best to select your program. But regardless, let's just hop into some of my tips, some of what I have learned over the years. So the first tip I have is probably the one that I feel like is the hardest to implement because of me, because I just get so excited about all of the programs. So my first tip is to aim to have your kiddos in the mid to upper end of the age ranges that Sonlight gives you. Why I say this is so hard for me is because I'll look at those age ranges and I was like, yeah, but if I put them in the upper end of the age range, they're gonna miss out on being able to do all of these programs. And yes, that's kind of true. And so that seems counterintuitive because I am so excited about some of those upper level programs, right? But the honest truth is they do learn more when they are to the mid to upper part of that age range. And I can speak from experience. So my older kids, we are currently using HBLC, and midway through our year, I have a newly turned 10-year-old and an 8.5-year-old. And in the example of HBLC, the age range is 8 to 10 years old. Okay, so that means that my daughter, my second born, started HBLC when she had just newly turned 8. She's a summer kiddo. She turned 8, so she's very much on the younger end. My son is very much in the middle part of that. He was 9.5 when we started, and the upper end is 10. And obviously, these age ranges are not super watertight, like you can only use these for these ages. That is not true. There is a lot of wonderful flexibility within the Sonlight program. So don't hear me say that, but I have found that my son gets a lot more out of it than my daughter. And that partly could be just due to him understanding it more and him being a little bit more verbal and her being a little bit more worried about getting it wrong. But I hear so much more from him. There's so much more of a discussion and a back and forth with him at 9.5 or 10 years old versus her. And so I feel like that's the hard part though, as you're trying to combine your kids, is to try to keep them near the upper age of the levels without one falling off either direction. So that's my first tip, and I think it's a hard one, but I think it's a really important one. And I feel like if you spend any time in any of the Sonlight social media platforms, you will hear families or moms share that fact that they really have seen a lot more retention and a lot more engagement when their kids are on the upper end. So enough of that tip. To move on to number 2 though, I would say my tip is to don't assume anything. So what I mean by that is don't open your catalog and see okay, here's the second grade all subjects package. That means I have a second grader, I need to use the second grade program. And like I said, Sonlight is way more flexible than that. One, there's age ranges, which is really helpful. I feel like when you see anything that's kind of grade level, I think it's just a good starting spot. it's a good place for you to consider, is this what my kiddo needs, or is this what all of my kids need? You know, it's like, I feel like you have to consider your family specifically when you're looking at that. And so remember that Sonlight is a lot more flexible and adaptable than that. You can adapt it up or down for particular kids. So I think that's really important to understand your kids. Are they really advanced? Are they struggling to read? Like, because I feel like where your kids are individually will help you make a decision. Like, for instance, if you have maybe a struggling reader that is just taking a little longer to learn how to read, which is not that big of a deal. Maybe when you get to like HBLD and the readers are bigger and more dense, it just isn't going to fit them. It's going to cause a lot of frustration, and you pushing them into that just because that is their grade and their age might not be the best thing. And it's the same for like I said, if you have a group of kids, if you are trying to use a program with a larger group, which is a perk of Sonlight, right, is it's very family style, but you have to kind of consider the entire group when you are picking a level. And that goes back to kind of my previous comment on like, try and staying near the top end of the range, or knowing that you're gonna just have to adjust. If you wanna use it for a bigger group, you're just gonna have to adjust kind of your bookends, your oldest and your youngest kiddos, as to what they need in that, but it's very doable. It's very doable, and I actually just really love that about Sonlight. So my next tip, my third tip for if you're trying to find like the perfect Sonlight level for this upcoming year, is that you don't necessarily have to just do the next level. You can skip. You can skip the next level if, again, you're taking your kids into consideration, you're taking their age into consideration, but here is where I feel like you take their interest into consideration. And I love that about Sonlight. I love the fact that you can really tailor it to your kids, especially in a lot of those middle school levels where you're talking, are they interested in Eastern Hemisphere? Or do they love world history and they want to make sure that they do 2 levels of world history? Or do they not love world history and they really have no interest in ancient Egypt or ancient Rome? Then maybe you just do the combined level there. Or maybe you make sure you're going to do J for a science-loving kiddo. And so what I love is, yes, you still have to be cognizant of the age ranges, or I recommend it, but you don't have to just do the next level. There is no box. There's no like, this is what all 4th graders learn. This is what all 8th graders learn. These are your specific kiddos with their giftings and their interests, and you can tailor it with the Sonlight programs. And so that's a tip that I think is really useful, especially if you tend to get anxious that you're gonna miss stuff. No, you can skip it. Just do what is best for you, I guess. That's what I'm saying there. My 4th bit of advice, and maybe this is the most practical, or actually the next 2 tips are the most practical, is that as you're considering what's the best level, is to seek advice. There are so many people that have done this before you. Honestly, the best place to go is probably the advisor line. It's like a free service for Sonlighters. You get to call this line and talk to somebody who has used the program, usually with all their kids, and they are veteran homeschool moms, or they just know the program in and out, and they have been talking to parents for ages about just kind of how you can shift things around and make it work for you. Because what I have found when I have called the advisor line is I can explain things. I can be like, well, my kids are this age, and then there's these ones, and this kiddo, he's really good at this, and she's really good at that, and I'm really confused as if I should go with this level or this level, right? And you can kind of share your whole story, and they can take their expertise and their just time spent with this curriculum and really guide you in ways that you might not have thought about. You might not have thought how you can tweak some of those maybe younger levels for an older kid, or vice versa, all the things, right? And I just think that is just such an amazing perk of Sonlight, is you can do that. You can call the advisors, but there's also other resources, you guys. You can also find Sonlight moms everywhere. So these are people who are actively using Sonlight. You can find them on Facebook. There's a Sonlight Moms Facebook group, but there's also like the Sonlight app, which is very similar. So in case you don't want Facebook, the app is wonderful. It has a very similar feel where people just post either questions or like success stories. Like for instance, I've seen when moms have posted like their kids writing, or here's what my kids' copy work looks like. And they'll be like, is this normal? And they get feedback, and it's really helpful. It's really helpful to just kind of pull the hive mind, if you will, all the Sonlight moms that are currently using the program. So those resources have been really helpful for me as I kind of every year reassess and try and figure out what we're going to use for the next year. And then the last tip, like I said, it's also a very practical tip, but it's useful. Use the assessments. Sonlight actually has assessments, not for HBL or science, but for math and language arts. Language arts, especially if you are thinking of trying out Sonlight Language Arts, or you've been using it for a while and maybe you feel like you're in the wrong level, use their assessment and see what it says, because the advice I've been given and what I found to be true with my own kiddos using the Sonlight Language Arts is that you really have to gear it towards their ability in writing, not their ability in reading. And so it's like you pick the level of language arts based on what they can write. Because oftentimes a kid's ability to read is far surpasses their ability to write. So those readers that come with the program might be really easy, but you know what? My kids love when things are easy. When there's just a moment when they're like, okay, I can read this. It's very simple. And then you obviously supplement with other books from your own shelves or from the library and stuff like that. So I highly recommend the assessments, but Sonlight even has a math assessment. You can go see if there's some curriculum specific assessments. Like I know there was a Saxon one that really helped me out when I was trying to gauge where my kids were in Saxon. So go check that out. There are a lot of things on the website that if you just kind of play around, you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was there, and that is actually quite helpful. So those are my tips as to how to pick the best level. But like I said, I do want to chat a bit here at the end of the video about Sonlight's upcoming promotion here in March of 2024. And so what is coming up here in a couple days, because I know this video is going out end of February, is that they have their biggest sale. And this year it's actually an extra day. It runs from March 1st to March 4th instead of March 3rd. So those days are their biggest sale days of the year. And it in particular is for the all subject packages. So the ASPs, this is where it includes your history, Bible, literature, as well as your science and your language arts and some of the things that, like whether it's spelling or handwriting, that are kind of required to go with that. And so those are 25% off, which you guys, if you are curious about Sonlight, you know that it is a higher cost program, but only because it's so rich in books and all the resources and things. But if you can get a deal, you should get a deal, right? And so that's March 1st through 4th. At that same time, they also have their payment plan program. So you can do the 12-month payment plan program, which is great. It can spread the cost over the year. You get a free Sonlight planner with the tabs. You guys, I've made a couple videos. I really like the Sonlight planner. I feel like it works really well for the Sonlight homeschool mom and just what I need to record and remind myself of. And it really supplements my instructor's guide, if you will. Those two are complementary. Instead of trying to rewrite the instructor guide into another planner, the Sonlight planner just really works. And that comes free, as well as one of the free blue Sonlight tote bags. I got one last year. I love it. We use it when we do our traveling homeschool day, when we're kind of out of the house for the day and we carry all of our books, and it's so sturdy. And so I'm super stoked to hopefully get another one this year. But those are the March promos. But then of course, it's also the time of year for conferences. So for anybody attending an in-person conference, there's like a $40 off coupon. And then there's also a like Switch convention coupon, which is $100 off for new customers who are switching to Sonlight. So those are the convention deals as well as the March promotion deals. And if it couldn't get any better, I always do include my link down below for a $10 off an order of $100 on your first order. So, I mean, you guys, it's pretty fantastic. And I get very excited. And this promo is actually what drives me to do all my planning in pretty much January and February and kind of nail down what I want, because I want to make sure I can utilize the Sonlight promotions in March. So yes, that's what I have to say about just tips for picking your best curriculum, as well as all the sales coming up. I'm so excited for this upcoming year. Let me know down below if you are as well. If you're considering Sonlight, what level you're thinking of, all the things. I get entirely too excited, honestly. But you guys, I hope you are doing well. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you guys in the next homeschool video. All right, take care. Bye.